Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first event in this webinar series, an introduction to food and beverage sustainable packaging. The event's brought to you by Food Industry Innovation and the Food and Beverage Fund teams of the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Kim Antonio, and I'm the manager of the Food Industry Innovation Program. The Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country, the Aboriginal people of the many lands that we work on, and their language groups throughout Western Australia. We recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters, and DPIRD respects the continuing culture of Aboriginal people and the contribution they make to the life of our regions, and we pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Our Sustainable Packaging webinar series aligns with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, in particular Sustainable Development Goal number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. And we achieve this by supporting WA food and beverage manufacturers to shift towards a circular economy. We currently have two projects that are focused on this area, the second one being a food waste reduction project, again, specifically focused on food and beverage manufacturing. And I'll mention a little more about that later. We're also keen to assist in meeting the 2025 national packaging targets and to help WA food and beverage manufacturers work towards those targets of 100% packaging to be reusable, recyclable or compostable by 2025, 70% of plastic packaging recycled or composted, 50% average recycled content across all packaging, and the phase out of problematic and unnecessary single-use plastic packaging. And this topic of the 2025 national packaging targets will be covered in far more detail in the fifth webinar in this series. Today and over the next 6 weeks, we'll deliver a web series that focuses on sustainable packaging, and like all of our programs, we've chosen this because it's been a topic that has been raised with us by food and beverage manufacturing businesses as an area of interest and something that you guys want to learn more about. Packaging itself has been raised throughout the life of our project as an issue of interest. However, in the last couple of years, there's been substantially more interest in relation to sustainable packaging. The 6 webinars offer a broad and general introduction to the topic of sustainable packaging, but there'll be a lot more detail, an opportunity for a lot more detail later on. So the purpose of the webinars is to set the scene and introduce you guys to key industry organisations and contacts that can help you with your projects. Later on in the year, we'll deliver further opportunities for businesses that wish to go deeper into specific sustainable packaging topics and to actually take meaningful action around their packaging challenges. Today, as webinar 1 in the series, we'll set the scene by highlighting why there is a need for us to adopt sustainable packaging within our production systems. And today's keynote presentation will be delivered by Professor Pierre Pienaar. He's the chair of the World Packaging Organisation and, fortunately for us, happens to reside in Australia. In week 2, we'll introduce Nerida Kelton, the CEO of the Australian Packaging Institute, and Nerida will present on packaging innovation. And in the third webinar, we'll introduce Associate Professor Min T from Curtin University, and Min will present on sustainable packaging branding. Week 4, we'll look into sustainable packaging education and training. And in week 5, we'll explore how the Australian Packaging Covenant Organisation, APCO, is working with industry and government to achieve the national targets I mentioned before. Throughout these 5 webinars, we encourage you to submit your individual questions or your sector questions on sustainable packaging, either via the chat function in the webinar or by email to foodindustryinnovation@dpird.wa.gov.au, and the email address will be put into the chat, so you can go straight there and copy from there if you wish. In the 6th webinar of the series, we'll also introduce the more advanced packaging resource offerings that will be run later in the year. At any time throughout the presentation, feel free to pop questions into chat. and also suggestions. So we're really keen to understand the format that works for you guys, and this format, going with 6 relatively brief presentations, was something that businesses had indicated to us they wanted information in manageable chunks and in a swift delivery format. So we'll see how this goes, but we're very keen to have your feedback on that as well. At this stage, we're not planning to dedicate a webinar to the WA single-use plastic legislation, as this initiative is being overseen by the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation. The contact details for the department are on the current slide, but they'll also be posted into the chat. And again, if you have any specific queries, either go straight to the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, or if you wish to post them as questions for us to pose to the department, we're happy to do that for you as well. I was watching a presentation around about 6 months ago, and I saw this graphic representation of Australian food waste, and certainly I found it very striking when it's presented in a form where you can actually contextualise it in terms of size and volume. So I mentioned earlier that we're introducing a project on food waste reduction, and we're currently seeking to understand the extent of industry interest and support for this project. I'd like to invite my colleague Phil May to say a few words about this initiative.
Yeah, thanks, Kim, and good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining in and supporting our Sustainable Packaging web series. So as Kim has introduced, the sustainable packaging and food waste initiatives that we're working on are related to the Sustainable Development Goals number 12 that are being overseen and managed as part of the United Nations global effort to improve the world in which we live in. Part of what we're doing in conjunction with our Sustainable Packaging initiative is looking at qualifying and then quantifying some of the food waste opportunities post-harvest, and in regards to also the manufacturing and value add of that agricultural harvest. And what we're seeking from you guys is a level of support to actually make sure that this initiative gains traction. So we invite you to register your interest through the email address that Amelia has posted in the chat, which is foodindustryinnovation@dpirdwa.gov.au. And subject to the level of support we get from you, we'll be able to push that initiative through. So what we're looking at doing is a bit of a funnel process, which includes research analysis from Curtin University, financial support and management oversight by the Fight Food Waste, CRC. And we encourage people just to, in the first instance, let us know that they have a waste product from their processing or post-harvest situation that you believe may have some value add properties or value add opportunities. So if you think you have something that you're collecting in a bucket on the side of your production runs that could be converted into something more valuable, we'd like to hear from you. And again, just encourage you to let us know that you are interested in supporting the initiative by contacting us via email. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Phil. So finally, just before we kick off with Pierre's presentation, just a reminder, pop any questions you have into the chat or submit them by email to foodindustryinnovation@dpird.wa.gov.au. A little introduction. Pierre is the president of the World Packaging Organization. He became concerned about packaging related issues soon after joining a large pharmaceutical company early in his career. He has extensive international experience, a Masters of Science in Packaging Science and Packaging Technology. He also has a Masters of Manufacturing Production. He's held key international positions, including National Chairman of the South African Institute of Packaging, President of the Australian Institute of Packaging, and currently President of the World Packaging Organisation. Professor Pierre Pienaar resides in Australia. However, he's currently attending to World Packaging Organisation commitments in Europe, and as such was unable to join us live as originally planned. So he has prepared a recorded presentation for us, and I'll ask Amelia to play that now.
Well, a very good day to all of you, and wonderful to be with you. My name is Pierre Pinau, and I'm the President of the World Packaging Organisation. I'm going to be talking about the challenges that we faced in the global packaging industry and how we can perform better in preparation to meet those demands. And I put up this slide on purpose. It's confronting. It's sad. But it's there for a purpose. And the purpose is to show that this is not where packaging belongs, not in the ocean. Likewise, with this polystyrene on the beach, to some of us, it's not an unfamiliar sight. It's a sad sight. And we see more and more of it happening across the world. And something needs to be done to correct the course on the current situation. And we only see some of what's on the surface of the sea. What lies below is worse, and is getting worse. And when one sees a sad situation like this, where a bird cannot discern right from wrong, with disastrous results sometimes. And so it brings me to the point where we have to move to a circular economy and recycle and recycle and recycle. And only that which we can't, we send off to incineration and recover the energy. And only in this way can we reduce the environmental impact on our planet Earth. We realize that packaging is necessary. Our lifestyles have changed from our grandparents. We need it for food safety, for quality, for shelf life, for reducing food waste. But we need to develop solutions that somehow reduce the volume of packaging that we are using. But always remembering, protection comes first. And we, the WPO, see a future without waste. Move from a linear economy to a circular economy, right around the globe. Some countries are doing it well, and many are not at all. And this is where the problem lies. And here in the WPO, we have made great strides in reducing food waste, reducing packaging waste, and increasing packaging education to the consumers. We will continue to target unnecessary packaging and phase out those not recyclable types of packaging and steer ourselves towards mono materials. And at the same time, focus on extended producer responsibility schemes. And what are these? These are schemes where the producing companies of packaging take responsibility of ensuring that those packaging materials are returned after the product has been removed, and the circular economy can progress and recycle and recycle and recycle. And we've recently implemented a very effective EPR system in Indonesia. And it's great to see the outcomes coming into effect in that country. So why do I tell you all this? And then why do I show you this map of the world showing vegetables, shows fruit all across the globe? And I, based here in Australia, can quite easily have bananas in the middle of winter in Northern Europe. How come? Why? Because packaging provides that for me. So we, as a consumer, we put the back pressure on the system demanding these extended shelf lives. Is it necessary? I question that. I leave that thought with you. And at the same time, the World Packaging Organization, focusing on sustainability in packaging, in their World Star program, we have a portfolio, a category specifically for sustainable packaging. And this is a snapshot of last year's winners, just showing you what can be done. And we don't forget about our students, the future generations of society. We have a program for them too, so that they at a young age learn the fundamentals of sustainability in packaging and ensure that they design accordingly. That is how we will get the future right. We see far too many scenes on the left-hand side image. We don't need to see any more of those images. And to be able not to see any more of those images, we have to do things differently. For example, meat, 10 years ago, had a shelf life of about 5 to 7 days. Today, it's between 70 and 90 days shelf life. The question is, how necessary is that? Our grandparents ate the meat that was slaughtered within a week, for example. We want an extended shelf life. And that puts pressure on creating materials that can give us that. On the right-hand side, we have single-use plastics. And these have been phased out across Australia for good reason. We need products and we need packaging in particular that can and should and always be recycled. Otherwise, we will see more dump sites like this. And I can tell you, I've seen more dump sites in my role in the WPO than probably anyone else. Right across the world, somehow, in all my travels, I'm always taken to dump sites. But you learn a lot from a dump site, and this was in Lagos, in Nigeria. And that hill is all rubbish. The good thing is that it appears to me that there's some recycling happening here in the foreground in this photo. And this one is Smoky Mountain in the Philippines. And that hillside is all rubbish, with 3 to 4 generations having lived on that dump site. We need to move away from that. But we here in Australia also have problems. You know the bushfires that were around in 2020. That smoke circumnavigated the planet. We need to move away from this scenario. And so what are the future challenges that we're faced with? FMCG companies can no longer have a passive approach, like just simply lightweighting. More aggressive approaches have to happen. We need to build more infrastructure to be able to manage the increase in recycling. And certainly we need to implement closed loop systems. And along with that, build recovery capabilities for the likes of pyrolysis, gasification, and so on. And in this way, we will move to more, and we'll focus more on monomaterial packaging solutions. Always remembering about safety. Always remembering that we cannot compromise product integrity. Safe food grade plastic forms for sure, always. And it can be done. It can be done. But we need to focus our attention on the little ones, the grade 1s, the grade 2s, the grade 3s. We need to educate them in packaging and sustainability. We need to equip them with the means of making the right decisions and empowering them as a future generation. Grade 1s, this class here that you see, Southeast Queensland. And these little ones are like sponges. And in this photo, I'm lecturing to them or giving class to them. and I do it twice a year and have for the last 14 years. And I can see the progress that has been made amongst those children. It's a starting point, but we need to do more. All of us, each one of us needs to be sure that we're doing the right thing in our backyards, in our homes and our apartments. Because, folks, we only have one planet Earth. And right now, we are using more natural resources than we're putting back into planet Earth. The scale is not in equilibrium. And right now we require nearly 2 planet Earths. That's how we are decimating our natural resources. And if we continue on that trajectory, by 2050 we will require nearly 3 planet Earths. We all know there's no more than 1 planet Earth. But if we do the things that I've been explaining in the last while, and we implement those in our homes, and we put pressure on the system to correct that scenario of not being able to recycle, but we, each and every one of us, do it, by 2050, we will be back on track. 1 planet Earth. Because we don't need another Great Pacific garbage patch. These, one of 4 patches, this is the largest one. It lies between the Californian coast and Hawaii. It's the size of Spain, Germany, and France put together. It's huge. And we are only looking at the surface of the sea there. We're not looking below the ocean surface. We cannot afford another Great Pacific garbage patch. I thank you.
Well, a powerful and confronting message from Pierre, and I think that the very fact that the businesses that are online today have an interest in this topic probably shows that they have an interest in addressing some of these key issues. As I mentioned, this is being recorded, and all the webinars will be recorded. So anyone who would like to access a copy of them for future reference or to share with others, you're most welcome to do so. And just simply pop your details into the chat, or, as I say, email Food Industry Innovation, and we'll make sure a link is made available to those. We'll also be posting the 6 webinars, actually probably the 5 webinars. The Q&A one will not be recorded, but the others we will post on our website for your future reference. One of the objectives of the webinars, as I said at the start, is to introduce you to resources that can assist you with your projects. And obviously the World Packaging Organisation is one of these resources, and their website is listed here, and it'll be popped into the chat, www.worldpackaging.org. I encourage you to familiarise yourself with their website, and in the tab we've highlighted the resource tab. We will, in all likelihood, have further opportunities to engage with Pierre, given his link to the Australian Institute of Packaging. So if you have specific queries that you would like to put to him, we're also happy to forward those on. And finally, your feedback helps drive the direction of our programs and lets us know the topics that are of most interest to you. So please take a moment now before you go to click on the link in the chat and complete the short survey. And as I said, if you've got key topics that are not currently featured in the series that you would like us to focus on, then please alert us to those as well, and we'll look for suitable resources to assist you. The link to the survey has been popped up on screen. So finally, thank you all for your attendance this morning. We look forward to seeing you over the next few weeks. Don't forget to register for the next webinar, which is Best Practice, presented by Nerida Kelton from the Australian Packaging Institute. And we'll send a follow-up email to you at the close of this webinar with the links as well. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next week.